I'm gonna hope for the best. I hope I pressed record. Hello people of the world, my name is Missam and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're here for the first time. And the biggest, baddest, backest of welcome should be to me, myself, yours truly, because I have not been on YouTube for years at this point. And the only reason why I'm back is because my favorite show just ended. I'm talking about Arcane, which just recently came out with its season 2. It was a 2-part series. Season 1 came out a few years ago. Season 2 literally came out today. Like, I watched it at work. I was so excited for it. And now that it's here, I had to talk about it. And turns out I had so much to talk about that initially I was about to do like a review, but then one particular section, like Vi's character section, went on for much longer than I initially intended. Therefore, I have decided to split my entire Arcane thoughts into more than one part. So far, 3 parts have been planned out. This is the first part. There's going to be a review and there's going to be another video essay. While writing what was initially intended to be a review, I ended up writing thousands of words on Vi's character, and I realized that, you know what, I have way too much to say. Let's just do justice to it in a separate video. So here we are. So without further ado, let's dive into Arcane. Specifically Vi's character, because I usually say that Vi is one of my favorite characters of all time. And I really wanted to take a moment to talk about why. One of the best things about Arcane is that it really knows how to get characters right. And Vi is one of the strongest written, one of the rawest characters that Arcane has to offer. Even though it is an ensemble cast, every single character is so standout. And for me, Vi definitely takes that standout award. Her strength, her protectiveness, her ability to not just take a hit but also come back and hit back harder, her impulsiveness and her compassion, all of them make her not just a memorable character but also somebody who is highly relatable. If you go on YouTube and if you do a random search on Vi's character, multiple videos are going to come up which talk about how Vi is a girl boss character done right. Now there are lots of controversies surrounding the girl boss character, the Mary Sue character, strong female character, and I could talk about the nuances of that trope and the politics behind that trope for hours at end. But instead, I'm going to take this moment to just talk about how Vi indeed is a girl boss character done right, because the focus of her character is in her heart and in her strength, which I feel are 2 great attributes a hero-like character should be having in your story. Vi has both substance and style. Okay, so there is this one scene, it's a sequence in season 1, which is just Vi parkouring from building to building in the Undercity, and it is one of the coolest things I have ever seen in my life. There's this one slow motion shot of her just like jumping from one building to another, and that was just so cool. Okay, that was cool, and I like it. I like the fact that she is not just a really well-written character, but she's also awesome. This is pure class. So in my entire history as an Arcane fan, okay, I've also seen a lot of hate on Vi's character, and I don't quite understand it because the reasoning behind this hate does not have a single, I'm sorry, but does not have a single critical thinking bone behind it. Like, I've seen the reasons why you claim to hate Vi's character, and honestly, if you don't like her or if you disagree with me, sure. But I do think that that is not the most nuanced way to look at her character, because I feel like every person who seems to hate Vi's character and not just dislike her or call her a bad sister, I don't think they quite understand her history, her past, or read between the lines of her character at all. Let me explain. From the very first frames of the show, you see Vi's trauma play out. You see the debris of the war, the flames, the bodies, her parents' bodies. We see ghastly shapes emerge from the smoke, the silence of death, only interrupted by the sound of the dying. We see explosions, the guns, and the enforcers as Powder's haunting lullaby echoes in our ears. A lullaby that speaks of Zon's desperation, its yearning for empathy, its ask for help and respect. Here, in this moment, we see the full extent of Vi's trauma. And she is just a child. And this is just the beginning. You see Vi shaken to the bone, yet you see her grip tighten around Powder's hand like a promise. Vi was going to protect Powder, come what may. This idea is then reinforced in the audience when Vi protectively sort of covers Powder when they first see Vander. And please note, as we find out later in season 2, Vander is somebody Powder and Vi both already knew. But when Vi sees Vander beating up an enforcer, her first instinct is to protect her sister. And I feel like that is so telling of Vi's character, that even though there's all this death, all this destruction around her, and even though she herself is just a child, she wants to protect Powder. That is her number one priority. Vi protects Powder. That is her entire stake. And not just Powder, but also Milo and Clogger and Echo, and even Vander. When Vander gets kidnapped, Vi goes out to defend him, to protect him, to save him. Even though with Milo and Clogger and even Echo, she assumes more of a leadership role, but she's very different when it comes to Powder as she is with Milo and Clogger. With Powder, there's this soft side of Vi that often comes out. Pretty much every time Powder and Vi share a screen together when they're kids, Vi just has this softness to her which she does not have with other people. And even though she's not the same with Milo and Clogger, again, through every scene in the first 3 episodes of season 1, we see that she will not hesitate to get her knuckles bloody for any of them. Vi's role is not just limited as Powder's protector, she is her sister. When nobody believes in Powder, Vi is sure that her inventions are gonna work someday. When Powder is feeling low, Vi is right there talking to her. She's here trying to comfort her, trying to console her, sharing her own experiences with her, having a heart-to-heart. Vi is not just Powder's protector, she is her real, actual sister who is fulfilling her sisterly duties towards Powder as much as she is trying to protect Powder from everything bad in the world. Yes, when all hell breaks loose, I think that's the fateful episode is episode 3 of season 1, but yeah, when all hell breaks loose, yes, Vi does lose it and she ends up hitting Powder. And yes, I know that that was the wrong move. Here's the thing, so does Vi. In fact, the moment she does it and she takes a moment to sort of compose herself, she immediately regrets it and tries to go back after Powder, especially when she sees that Silco's got her, right? She wants to go back in there, she wants to go back and protect her, but then she gets kidnapped. It's not that Vi ever tries to justify that action. She knows she was wrong. In fact, that action haunts her for the rest of her years to come because she thinks that that was the last thing she said to her sister. That was the last thing she did to her sister before her sister probably died or was lost forever. Also, let's put things into a little bit of perspective, okay? Can we just talk about what Vi just went through? Her adoptive father just got kidnapped, and not just in any way, okay? There was a lot of bloodshed. A monster was unleashed. People died. There was blood splattered across the window from where Vi was watching. She saw all of that. She then decided to go rescue her father. There, she fights goons and monsters and she is beaten up, and yes, she wins most of those fights, but she is bruised and beaten down. And then there is an explosion that is caused by a well-intentioned but thoroughly misguided Powder, which Vi did not know about at the time, but that explosion kills Milo and Clogger. And just when everything was about to go right, just when Vi was about to, reach the goal that she came here for, to get exactly what she was there for, to get Vander to safety, to get her siblings to safety, just then that explosion sort of ruins everything. It takes everything away from her. And then her father, she sees him turn into a monster and kill all these people. And you are telling me that this 15-year-old kid is going to be, self-aware enough to not lash out when she finds out who that explosion was by? Of course it was not Powder's fault. I am sure that if Vi was given a moment to think about it, she would come to the same conclusion. In fact, I think she thought about this conclusion over and over again for the next 7 years in prison. But in that moment, can you really blame a 15-year-old for lashing out after everything she had seen? And let's not even get into the backstory of her life. The poverty, the oppression, watching her parents die. This was just the tip of the iceberg, but it was also the highest point of the iceberg. It was it for her, and she lashed out. Does not make her a monster. Makes her very, very human. Vi never justified her action. She never asked for forgiveness. She lived the rest of her 7 years sitting with all of that guilt, all of that trauma, and all of that hurt. This 15-year-old that you're hating because of hitting her sister under a very stressful situation is also a 15-year-old who learned or was sort of forced into this protector role before she had any means of developing an identity of her own. Then she spent the next 7 years of her life in prison getting beaten up every single day. Vi was always a good sister. She was always a protector, and she was always a fighter, and she was human, so she made mistakes. In fact, something that I often think about is that during that 7-year time jump, right, when Jinx sort of is born, and all these other characters are on their own journeys and they're growing, Vi is sort of stuck. She's stuck in prison. She's stuck with all these memories. She has not had enough experiences. She's not had enough growth. And I often wonder, and this is just me, but I wonder if Vi was if that was supposed to do something to the way she processes emotions and she processes information. Because to think one would lose everything as a child and then spend the next 7 years in prison where they're basically fighting for their lives, somewhere that child would still remain. Leads me to believe that Vi might not be the most mature person around, but hold that thought. We're gonna get back to it in a moment because I don't believe that's necessarily a bad thing. This thing that I just said where she's probably still stuck in the past. We know that Jinx in a lot of ways is stuck in the past because we literally see her past haunting her as hallucination, basically causing her so much emotional distress and essentially driving her insane. I think the same could be said for Vi, because even though the trauma has not manifested the exact same way in Vi as it has with Jinx, I still think that Vi is sort of living in the past. And this is reflected in the way Vi looks at Jinx the first time she sees her, because she does not see a killer. Also because she does not know about exactly what Jinx is capable of, and she only finally realizes when she sort of sees Jinx go all out and kill people with that machine gun, like crazily shoot people with that machine gun. But still, when she first sees Jinx, not just in the first scene, but also in the scenes that are to come in season 1, she sees her as Powder, because in Vi's eyes, that is still Powder. She does not know how everybody around her got from point A to point B, because Vi has been stuck at point A for 7 years. She has made no friends. She has been fighting for her life, trying to survive in prison. She has just been hurting people and getting hurt herself in prison the entire time. She has not grown as a human being. Even though she has learned how to survive, there is a difference. I feel like in season 2, this comparison of Jinx and Vi in the way they have processed these 7 years, this was sort of a gold mine of character development which was largely left untapped. And this seems to be a common theme, unfortunately, for season 2. More about my thoughts on season 2 in another video. Bear with me, I'm gonna explain. But yeah, Vi just not fully understanding Powder's transformation into Jinx also not just shows that Vi is stuck in the past, but also creates a deeper rift between the two sisters, because Powder knows how she got from point A to point B. She has had a life where she has done things, she has discovered things about herself, she's grown as a person. And even though that growth has not been, well, it has been productive because she has learned a lot, done a lot in her life, but it hasn't been positive. She still knows, she still has that track. Vi does not. I think this would have been a very interesting thing to explore in season 2, which was not exactly done to my liking. Compared to season 1, I think season 2 does relatively little with Vi's character, and I'm upset about that. The interesting ideas are all there. Vi's relationship with Caitlyn, her relationship with Jinx, her finding Vander, her foray into law enforcement, all of those concepts, brilliant. Execution? I just feel like they were all underutilized concepts. I did like that her transition into law enforcement was not sudden. In fact, when Caitlyn first offers her the badge, she says no. Obviously, she would say no. Literally, the first scene of the entire show is how enforcers kill her parents, and the whole point of like enforcers in this universe is that they're cops. And given that Vi comes from the oppressed part of society, of course, she would not be loving the cops. I'm glad that the transition did not happen suddenly. Of course, Vi is supposed to be an enforcer according to her legend, like League of Legends background. So I do understand that they had to tie that to that, and usually this is done shabbily. Like usually the characters just step from one role into the other just to fit in with their lore. That is not what happened with Vi's character. She initially turned down the badge, and she had every reason to turn it down, and she tells Caitlyn, like, how could you even ask me this? I would never side with this this cohort. This group of people are the reason why her people burned and died. This group of people are the reason, as far as Vi is concerned, why her parents are dead. Why would she ever want to join them? But then we see the agents of Zaun sort of attack the memorial service at Piltover, and seeing all that violence and realizing that, oh no, Powder is Jinx, and everything that she knew and loved about her whole life in Zaun is gone. It's over, and all these people care about is violence, is just mindless violence. I feel like this transition was more natural than her just going like, you know what, yeah, this is the only way, let's do it. I will give Vi the benefit of doubt here as well, because remember what I said about Vi sort of being stuck in the past because of her time in prison? I stand by this theory. Hear me out. I think in trying to do the right thing, she ends up going for the first solution that comes to her. Don the enforcer uniform. Bring justice. Given the amount of hatred she had for Jinx at the time, who she now sees as an entirely separate entity from her sister Powder, the violence that she sees these Zaun agents cause at the memorial, and her strong desire to once again protect the people she cares about, in this case people being Caitlyn, it all makes her put on the badge. Because of her years in prison, it is clear that Vi does not operate in the grey. For her, it's either black or white, good or bad. That's how she saw the world as a child, as a teenager, and in prison, that belief system was probably a survival tactic. That is why I believe that the world outside of prison sort of knocked Vi off course, because she was not ready for a world that did not operate in the same black or white mode that Vi did. Both Piltover and Zaun are crawling with politicians who do not hesitate to bend morality to their will to achieve their ends. This is a world rife with grey. So, Violet in this world struggles. It is not suited for somebody like her because she has not lived in a world like this for 7 years of her life. Vi's tragedy is that while her morality might be stuck in the past, she is not stupid. She knows she's having trouble coping with a world designed to corrupt. It corrupted everyone she cared for and loved. Powder, Caitlyn, and even Vander through experimentation. And so, Vi is always choosing the wrong thing. She even says it, like in season 2, in the final act, she is actually having a breakdown in front of Caitlyn, and she talks about how no matter what, she's always choosing the wrong thing. Because in a corrupt world, trying to do the right thing is inevitably going to be wrong. Caitlyn in season 2, act 3 even says that Vi is becoming predictable because Vi immediately goes to rescue Jinx the moment she is thrown into prison. The world is not black and white. The world is not right or wrong. There are different people who are looking at the world in different ways, and Arcane is such a good example of that because every single character has their own perception of the world. They have their own interests. They have their own self-interests. They have their own motivations and their own selfish reasons for doing things. And Vi just does not know how to operate in this world. So in trying to do the right thing, she always ends up doing the wrong thing. She realizes this because she is an intelligent character, just a tragic one. Vi and Jinx are the heart of the show. Their story is what keeps the viewers, me, invested. Because yes, we care about the cool hex tech and the magic and the black rose and this and that, but ultimately it's the characters that we attach ourselves to. The drinking problem would actually fit perfectly fine with her character. That's not the problem. The problem is that the first time we are sort of introduced to this issue is when, after all the season 1 final act stuff has happened, Vi chooses to go drinking with this hulk of a man, and then she passes out, and then when she wakes up, there's this really cheerful, like whoop-de-doop-de-doo sort of a music playing in the background, and the drinking problem is almost given the comical treatment, which does not make sense to me. Like, have you seen what just happened? This girl lost her sister. Not just lost her in any way, she thinks that her sister has transformed into an evil maniac. And now she's decided to drink her problems away. This is not funny. This is actually quite hard-hitting for the character herself. So just the show sort of treating it lightly, I felt like not just was a disservice to her character, but was also just strange tonally. Like, by all means, Vi, go, pass out in a ditch. You deserve it. Out of all people in the world right now, I will not judge you. But I don't think that is supposed to be like a funny pass out in the ditch. Sure, she might be sort of like, I don't want to think about anything. I'm just gonna pass out in that ditch. That's how she's choosing to process it, and that is also tragic. And I don't think that should be played for laughs or just played in a lighthearted way. Also, the hulk of a man that she befriends, I don't know who this guy is. I think his name was mentioned at some point in the second season, but I think he was there for a total of 4 scenes. One where he's passed out in the ditch, second where he's like sort of shaking his head when Caitlyn becomes the military dictator. Third is when he is nodding approvingly when Vi is winning her fights in those underground rings. Fourth is when he's actually having a conversation with Vi. And fifth is when he eventually dies. Sorry, so 5 total scenes, out of which he is talking for 1 of them. So when I first saw this dude, okay, I saw a lot of people online comment about how they first thought like it's Vander. And I think the character design was supposed to be intentional because Vander is supposed to be a hulk of a man. This dude is supposed to be a hulk of a man. And I think the character design was to indicate that this dude is going to be like a father figure to Vi. That's the hint I got when I saw him because he seemed to be this wise dude who is letting Vi do her own thing but also gently guiding her in the right direction and overall being sort of protective about her, which I found was a very, very sweet move and a very sweet inclusion of this particular character. But the way he was underutilized, like, why even have him there? I thought his role going forward in the second act especially would be to be that father figure to Vi. Because here's the thing, Act 2 opens with Vi completely gone in her drinking habit. All she does is take part in fights, win money, hit people, get beaten up herself, practice fighting, drinks. That's her entire life, and she's choosing to wallow in her misery. And again, Vi deserves to wallow in her misery. She has had a hard life. I think she also deserves to have a father figure who, even if she does not listen to, is there, sort of like a little voice in her head asking her to believe in herself. I feel like the lack of this little voice did a great disservice to everything that followed. Because here's the thing, what the show ended up showing us is that Vi is struggling, she's going through all these problems. Jinx comes, they have a little scuffle again. Jinx swears that, Vander is back. Vi decides to go check it out and see what it is. I felt that was a little contrived. Instead, if we had this guy and all he had to do was literally 1 or 2 scenes where he's just one heart to heart, and Vi doesn't even have to listen to him. She can just tell him to, mind his own business and not bother her. There could have been a relationship where there is reluctance from Vi's end, but she also knows that this is all she has. This is the only friend she has. She does not want to listen to his wisdom. She is done. She just wants to drink her problems away. This guy is just looking out for her, waiting for her to sort of come into her own. And I feel like him being the voice of reason in her head was a huge missed opportunity. Because when Vi goes on to accompany Jinx on their quest for Vander, she essentially chooses to believe Jinx, even though she does not. But there is this gut feeling that at least tells her to go along with Jinx. Vi would only do that if she believed somewhere in Jinx, if she believed in the good things in life, if she believed in herself. Having somebody who reminded her about that, to show her character arc, from going like not willing to accept it to reluctantly accepting it with Jinx, and then to finally accepting it when they actually find Vander, and she does call Vander Jinx's dad too, and they have that very cathartic moment as a family. I feel like that would have just been better earned if a little bit more character work had been done with Vi. I feel like properly utilizing this dude, again, I just forget his name, so I keep calling him dude, but why introduce him if not do anything meaningful with him is my point. Plus, not to mention, when the dude dies and Vi sees him die, she just looks at him, she's like, and then the scene cuts. I mean, there is pain on her face, but it's so barely registered. Again, if this guy had meant something to her, which he should have, he was her only friend during that entire time jump from season 2 act 1 to season 2 act 2, and he must have meant something to her, but we don't see any major outburst from Vi, who is so far known to be a very, she wears her emotions on her sleeves most of the time, at least with people she loves. She cries when they die. She is broken when they are broken. So to see somebody die and then to have a bare minimum reaction, that was just weird for me. But on the other hand, I feel like if that relationship had been respectfully handled, then they could have used that to sort of really hit Vi when she was already low in the final battle. It's time to talk about Vi and Caitlyn. I feel like Vi and Caitlyn's interaction was way too rushed, and let me tell you why. Up until that point, what do we know about these two people? We know that they're in love, but strictly in season 2, Caitlyn loses her shit because her mother dies. She completely flips, which is understandable. Caitlyn used to be this warm, compassionate human being, probably one of the kindest human beings on the show. But once her mom dies, Caitlyn decides to go over to the dark side, essentially. She offers Vi the opportunity to become an enforcer, which Vi rejects. She then manages to convince Vi, but her plan is literally to gas Jinx out of the Undercity. She uses noxious gas and cuts off clean air supply to the Undercity, and they use masks themselves while raiding the Undercity. That is how badly Caitlyn wants Jinx. So she leads these raids, and then after that, she promises Vi that she will not change. Vi categorically, after losing everybody in her life, she requests, she begs Caitlyn to not change, because Caitlyn is one of the most open-minded, kindest human beings that Vi has met, which is why Vi immediately falls in love with Caitlyn. Well, not immediately, but she does. Caitlyn is curious, Caitlyn is smart and intelligent, and because of all these reasons, Vi is attracted to Caitlyn. So she literally begs Caitlyn to not change. At this point, everyone in Vi's life, everyone she loved and cared for, has become corrupted. Jinx is the perfect example. She literally went from powder to Jinx. She changed personalities. And Vi doesn't want to lose Caitlyn as well. Caitlyn is sort of the only source of warmth at this point in Vi's life, and Caitlyn promises Vi that she will not change. However, when the face-off happens between Vi and Jinx, Isha jumps in to try to protect Jinx, because that's what Isha does. Isha tries to protect. Very similar to Vi, actually. But then what does Caitlyn do? Caitlyn does not try to hold back. Knowing that there's a child in the line of fire, Caitlyn still wants to shoot, and Vi does not stand for it. Remember when I said that Vi does not function in grays? For her, things are black or white. So this is the exact moment where that trait sort of comes out. And she said, no, there is a child, literally a child in the line of fire. And Caitlyn says that no, A, she does not care. B, she is also very confident in her ability, which is fine, but what if Isha got hurt? Anything could have happened in that moment, and Vi will not stand for it. For her, putting a child at risk is simply not worth it. Caitlyn is angry at Vi. She believes that she does not have what it takes. Vi is she cannot bear to see another person she loves get so corrupted. Ultimately, the thing that she fears the most is exactly what plays out. The person she loves the most at that moment becomes corrupted in front of her eyes. Not becomes corrupted, but she sees them for how corrupted they have become in front of her eyes. That moment, that's like a perfect parallel to season 1, because season 1 episode 3, season 2 episode 3. Here, Vi abandons Jinx, abandons Powder, and then hits her on her way out. Same in season 2 episode 3, Caitlyn abandons Vi and hits her on her way out. So perfect parallels. I love Arcane. More than just parallels, I think this just goes on to show that how heartbroken Vi must have been by Caitlyn's corruption. Up until this point, Caitlyn has been the source of strength. She's been the source of kindness in Vi's life. And she had promised her that she would stay, that she would not be corrupted, she would not change. Instead, in front of her eyes, Vi literally sees the love of her life embody the same values that Caitlyn had sworn to fight alongside Vi. Not only has she become an enforcer, she ends up becoming their leader. She leads an entire movement against them. She oppresses people. And are you telling me that it's gonna be so easy for Vi to trust Caitlyn again? I mean, yes, of course, Vi is still in love with Caitlyn. In her alcohol-induced delirium, Caitlyn is who she sees. She hallucinates Caitlyn because she misses Caitlyn, because she loves Caitlyn. But trust is going to be difficult to build from this point. Not only has Caitlyn betrayed Vi in a sense, she's abandoned Vi, but she's also become the person that Vi has always hated her entire life. She's become the kind of person Vi has always hated her entire life, the kind that oppresses her people, who does not believe that what is happening is an injustice. And Caitlyn, on the other hand, is seeing Vi as somebody who does not have it in her to carry out this attack against Jinx, because she believes that she's in the right, because Jinx has killed her mother, and therefore Jinx deserves to be imprisoned. And she probably just believes that Vi is soft on Jinx because they're sisters. So with all of this that has happened, if you tell me that they are going to bond over an accidental tryst and a cupcake joke, I'm just not gonna believe you. I don't think it's realistic at all that after so much damage, just like one meeting is gonna solve it all between them. Because yes, I understand that deep down, both of them love each other and both of them want to make things right. But both of them are not in the right headspace to make it happen so quickly. At least from Vi's point of view, the kind of trust that has been broken by Caitlyn is so deep that it will require not a cupcake joke, not an accidental tryst, not even a small sign of goodwill from Caitlyn as it did in the show, but potentially blood, sweat, and tears. Arcane fans will know what I'm talking about. So yes, them deciding to completely trust each other so quickly and formulate a plan, and then the plan literally relies on them trusting each other. That's so unrealistic. Maybe in a couple of meetings, maybe a proper scuffle between Caitlyn and Vi was also required, because Caitlyn did kind of go insane and take a very extreme approach. And Vi also took a very, like, she took a nosedive basically. She went into drinking and just wasting away her life. Given how diametrically opposite they have become at this point in the story, trust is not something that'll come easily. So yes, in short, I feel like I have a lot to say about Arcane. I love season 1, and I think season 2 is a decent enough follow-up, but it requires some depth, especially in Vi's character, because for me, she is the main character. She is the person, she is the character with the most heart. She has that hero's journey. Not giving her the depth that she deserves, I feel, was a massive disservice to her character. And I get it, this season was more about Jinx and her personal growth than Vi, but I don't feel like one has to be done at the expense of the other. Thank you so much if you've been around for so long. Definitely like, subscribe, leave a comment. I feel like I should have asked you guys to do that at the beginning of the video, but now, if you're here till now, definitely subscribe. This was supposed to be a part of my video, so I'm really glad that I split my video. I decided to split the entire series. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.